And welcome back. We are pleased to welcome to the show listener Zach, who has been battling a confirmed case of coronavirus. Zach, thanks for making time for us, especially when I'm sure you haven't been feeling particularly well lately.
Yep. Well, glad to help out. I mean, I guess this is a mild case, so I guess people need to hear it.
Well, I figured we just start with the obvious, which is, can you describe your experience with the sickness? So, what are your symptoms like? How long has it been? How does this compare to other sick experiences you've had in your life?
Well, before we go there, I'll just lay out the foundation that I'm not in any risk group at
Hmm.
all. So I'm not elderly. I have no underlying health conditions. Um, I'm healthy. So I was they were never really they never se- no one ever seemed that concerned about me, which sounds bad now that I said it.
I
Uh,
get what you mean relative to other people, not
yes,
you as an individual. But yes, I understand.
yes. I've been battling it for about a week since symptoms first started. Um, I was a confirmed case, and so I knew when the sickness started, I knew what it was. So,
Really?
uh,
So it didn't linger in your mind. You weren't thinking like, oh, maybe I have it, or off chance I have it. You kind of knew right away.
no, they had called me and told me I had tested
Oh.
positive.
So you took the
Oh.
So
test right away.
yes. Um, we can get into how I found out a little bit later, but started off with a cough, just a cough that would just linger and just not go away, and then all of a sudden in came the sore throat, followed by a fever. Now my fever never got that bad. I think I was pushing 102.
Hmm.
So it wasn't like a really dangerous fever, and you feel like crap. And the cough was dry. And so if you don't have any cough medicine, I can see how that could hurt like a shit ton.
Hmm.
So, and I felt like garbage for about, well, basically 2 days.
Okay.
So, and after 2 days, there was another symptom which started to pop up, and that was fatigue, tiredness. Um, like on the third day, I was feeling a little better. So I said, oh, I'll just go play some like video games. So I
Hmm.
booted up Red Dead, and about a half hour later, I was like, okay, go to bed. Because just it would exhaust you.
Hmm. Okay. So you're just basically spending all your time sleeping then, or wanting to sleep, perhaps.
Wanting to sleep, yeah,
Yeah.
laying.
How
Just
long were the symptoms getting worse before they started to improve?
It basically, I was going down the first day. I felt pretty garbage by the end of the first day. The second day was the worst day. Right near the end, a headache started to pour on. So I basically said, I basically threw in the towel and broke into my NyQuil.
Hmm.
So I broke into my NyQuil, slept for about 13 hours. And when I woke up, uh, the headache was gone, and I was no longer feeling as bad.
Okay.
Um, and that's in my mind. That's when I had I knew I was going to recover because you weren't getting worse.
Yeah.
And, and
You.
base
Sorry. Go ahead.
and basically it was just a steady crawl back. It has been a crawl. It has not been a bounce.
Hmm.
So
You apparently got a test almost right away. Is that the case, or did you have difficulty in getting a test?
no, I didn't have difficulty in getting a test.
Okay.
In my area of New York, there were zero cases. Okay.
Okay, so this was very early then. Wow.
Well, there were several hundred cases all throughout New York State, most of them obviously in the city,
Hmm.
but in my local area there wasn't.
Gotcha. Okay.
So all of a sudden, I get just basically a phone call from the health department said, we have a confirmed case of corona and we know that you've been exposed.
Okay. So they advised you to get the test, basically.
No, they didn't advise. They said drive in. We're going to test you.
Oh, okay, okay. All right, and
So
but were you sick? Were you symptomatic at the time, or was this before
no,
you started?
I felt perfectly fine.
Oh my
Gotcha.
god.
Wow. Uh, and do you know how this? Well, if they talk about your exposure, presumably you know how this happened. You know how you got this.
Yes, two people had come back from Italy, and they are
Okay.
more or less in my social circle, and they started to feel ill. They
Hmm.
went in and said they got the test, and I they got the test. They were confirmed cases, so they obviously said like obviously asked them like who have you had contact with, and my name was obviously like high on the list. So when I got called, they basically said come in for a test, and by the way, you're in self quarantine right now. So
Hmm.
start
So,
quarantining yourself.
Have
okay.
you
So
gone
you,
to the hospital?
yeah.
No, I went to a medical
Ah.
center. They actually, a guy came out in some medical gear. They walked me in through an alternate entrance because they didn't want me walking around the people. And they administered the test, which is like cheek swabs, a little spit, and they took blood.
Hmm.
And then they looked at you and said, like, we'll get the results back to you as soon as possible, but just self-quarantine.
And you were describing some of the conditions or the terms of your self quarantine before we went live here. What can you just describe some of those conditions? You're describing your friend who brings you food, for example, that sort of stuff.
Yeah, well, I live in my own house,
Hmm.
so that basically meant I now stay in my house all the time.
Is that by state order? Is that
It's
what you've?
by my choice.
Okay,
They highly recommended that I do it. Uh, when they said like if you need food, get someone to actually deliver your food. I take the precaution. I mean, they put the food on the porch, then they leave, and then I open the door and bring the food in.
sure.
So I'm being hyper careful. I mean, those first couple of days, I wasn't going anywhere.
Hmm.
So that was kind of how the self quarantine basically stopped. I mean, I drove straight to the medical center, did the tests, back in the car, home. Like it didn't stop at a gas station, nothing. So
Sure. Well, I know that your case isn't necessarily representative for everyone. You had mentioned you're in generally good health, and all the best information generally tells us that people who are older and have underlying health conditions are at much higher risk. But just generally, if there are people out there who think they have it or may contract it soon, is there any piece of advice that you'd like to give them or anything about your experience that you think would be helpful if you had that information
yeah.
before you got sick?
Well, one, if you're stupid like I was and you're thinking like, well, I'll wait until someone pops up with it in town before I really like take these measures seriously, just
Hmm.
know that probably won't work because in just my area, New York, I mean, it's like every few days it's doubling, we had no cases and now we have like, well, I think we have like over 100 and there's like 300 people in isolation
Hmm.
waiting for tests. So you don't want to, I guess you don't want to be one of those people who could be like be forced into those situations where you're now wondering, oh my God, if 5 days ago, oh God, what did I do? Um, the one thing I will say, and I don't know, this is maybe me being hyper paranoid, is when I got it, I did make jokes about it, but I took it very, very seriously.
Hmm.
So I made sure to not drink alcohol or do anything which could hurt my immune system.
Sure.
I took a multivitamin. I ate as healthy as I could. I even made sure to eat regularly and drink regularly because I didn't know if this was going to affect my appetite. I mean,
Right.
I don't feel like it did, but every couple hours I still ate because I was just so paranoid about like, I was going to be the case that had to be put on the, you know, whatever the defibs.
Sure.
I will
All
give
right.
a recommendation of advice for anyone
Yeah.
who gets this. Do not ration your cold medicine.
Okay.
I was under some impression that this was going to be like a 3-month battle. So I was trying to do homeopathic remedies, and so I
Hmm.
suffered. So I suffered through a cough longer than I needed to before I broke into the NyQuil.
Okay. Well, that covers pretty much all of my questions. Did you have more, Blonde? Any more curiosities?
I mean, as far as, okay, how long were you, I guess you wouldn't really know the answer to this, asymptomatic before you developed symptoms? So like the interaction you had with the people that you know gave it to you?
Could have been as long as 10 days.
Wow. Okay.
Oh my God. Man, should we be freaking out more? Are Skag and I too lax? Should we be wigging out?
I don't know. I got a lot of questions about the numbers because
Mhm.
they have a lot of numbers are like, oh, there's so many hospital beds being used, but are those just new people coming in or are those confirmed cases?
Right.
What are the status of the young people they say are coming in? Do they have underlying conditions? Like, I don't know. I can tell you on my social media and just my social circle here of people who are also kind of in my same kind of health condition, some of them are pretty sure they have it, but just haven't gotten tested yet because there's such a backlog in testing.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Well, there's like 5% of me that's wondering because, of course, I've had mild symptoms lately, and I had a West Coast trip last month, and of course, Blonde, you've been to Seattle and stuff too. I don't think it's likely that I have it, but weird off chance, and there just aren't tests available.
Yeah.
So
you did this. How this compares to other illnesses I've had in my life? I've had worse. I've had worse flus.
Mm-hmm.
I've had worse hangovers. So
okay. Well, that's a point of positivity.
Yeah, and I mean, I assume Andrew Cuomo's being accurate when he says the vast majority of cases are like mine.
Yeah, and that's good news. I mean, obviously not fun, but it doesn't sound like. I mean, you had mentioned earlier there was a point at which you started to recover and you knew you were going to be fine. But was there ever a point in your mind where you thought, "Oh, I might not be fine. Like I might have long-term problems or even death"? I don't know if that crossed your mind. But was there a point where you thought, "I'm in major trouble here," or did that not happen?
No, I was never physically in any kind of condition where I was going to like thinking about calling an ambulance or going to the hospital.
Yeah.
I never got
Okay.
there. Paranoia sure. I was paranoid at a couple points where like if this just keeps going down, I'm like, wow. But
okay, yeah, fear of the trajectory as opposed to like that point in time, right?
Yeah.
All right. Well, I will give you an opportunity for a last word if there's anything else you haven't shared that you'd like to.
Yeah, for those who are going to go through this, like I'm 1 week in, I have at least another week to go, and then I have to wait for a test for me to be virus-free. I have to test virus-free twice right now before I'll be technically recovered and out of self-quarantine.
Okay, so you're not over the battle yet, and there's in terms of the process people can expect if they happen to contract this as well.
I'm probably about 80% back from a week ago, but I honestly could see someone trying to power through this and just trying to like, oh, it's not that bad. I could.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, thanks for making time for us under the circumstances, Zach. We appreciate it greatly, and so does the audience. I know it's not a fun time, but everybody's looking for whatever information they can get. It's just a time of uncertainty, and everybody kind of says they know a guy who knows a guy who has it. So I appreciate hearing someone's direct experience that I can trust.
Yep.
Thanks a lot.
Thanks.